This happened just over a year ago. I was 32 and wanted a fresh start, so I moved to the city. I set up my home office in my new apartment, a cool spot in a renovated warehouse. It felt exciting at first. For the first week, everything was normal. I was focused on work, enjoying the cafes and street art around me. But then, the noises started. I first heard soft tapping from the walls. I told myself it was just the building settling or some nearby construction. It felt uneasy, but I tried to ignore it. Then the tapping changed. It became rhythmic, like someone was knocking in a pattern. I wanted to brush it off, but it was hard. One night, I was deep into my work when I saw something in my peripheral vision. I looked outside and thought I saw a shadowy figure by the streetlight. I leaned in to see better, but it was gone. My heart raced, but I figured I was just tired. A few days later, things got weirder. I woke up to find my desk chair pushed against the wall. My books were scattered on the floor instead of neatly stacked. I thought maybe I was sleepwalking, but I remembered I lived alone. A chill ran down my spine. I didn't like the idea of not being alone in my own space. After that, I kept my window closed and worked late to avoid those strange noises. But the feeling didn't go away. The tapping continued, and sometimes I caught that shadow again. Each time I checked, there was nothing. I tried to convince myself it was all in my head, but those questions wouldn't leave me. Were my neighbors messing with me? Was I losing my mind? Days turned into weeks, and the tapping kept going. I spent many sleepless nights listening, feeling trapped in my own home. The rhythm in the walls was always there, like it was waiting. I started to dread coming back to my apartment. The very thought of those noises sent shivers through me. One evening I sat at my desk planning to call a friend for support. The tapping suddenly grew loud, like someone was knocking urgently. My heart pounded. I stood up and walked toward the door. I wanted to see what was there, but my feet felt heavy. The knocking stopped. I stopped. Maybe I was just going crazy, or maybe something was truly waiting for me on the other side. There wasn't a single night that went by after that when I didn't wonder what was really happening. I never did call my friend. I never even opened the door. I still don't know what it all meant. Those 3 incidents haunt me to this day. They linger in the back of my mind, unanswered questions that still leave me questioning. The next few days passed in a blur of anxious anticipation. I tried to busy myself with work, but my focus was scattered. Every sound made me jump. I wondered if the shadow I caught a glimpse of was more than just a trick of the light. One Tuesday afternoon, with the rain tapping against my window, I took a break. I made a cup of tea and sat on my couch, trying to breathe and calm my racing mind. The tapping had returned, a steady beat like a drum echoing through my walls. I thought I could actually hear it weaving in and out of rhythm, almost forming a tune. It felt like someone was trying to get my attention. That's when I heard a voice. A faint whisper broke through the tapping, making my chest tighten. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone felt urgent. I stood up, heart racing, and moved closer to the wall. It had to be my imagination, right? Maybe I was just overworked? But the voice came again, clearer this time. Help. I froze. It was just a whisper, but it felt like a direct plea. I backed away slowly, trying not to let panic take over. I needed to figure this out. I couldn't just sit there, feeling helpless. Maybe if I confronted whatever was happening, I might find some answers, or at least some peace. That evening, I decided to take a walk. I needed fresh air, a different perspective away from my apartment. As I wandered, I thought about the people in the building. I wondered if anyone else heard the noises. I passed by the unit next door, feeling a mix of curiosity and dread. When I approached the door, I knocked, hesitating as I waited. No answer. I knocked again, more firmly this time. Still nothing. Just as I was about to turn away, I heard a shuffle inside. My heart pounded in my chest as the door swung open. A woman stood there, her eyes wide and curious. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice soft. "Hi, I'm your neighbor," I stammered. "I was just wondering, have you heard any strange noises in the building?" Her expression shifted. "Strange? How do you mean?" I explained the tapping and the whispers. As I spoke, I noticed her frown deepen. "You're not alone in this," she finally said, glancing nervously behind her. "It's been happening for a while now." What did she mean? My stomach dropped. Before I could ask more, she lowered her voice. "Just be careful. You don't know what's on the other side of those walls." A chill raced through me. I didn't need any more cryptic warnings. My entire reality felt shaky. I thanked her quickly and left, a swirl of questions consuming my thoughts. What was she talking about? What did she know? That night I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. In the silence I could hear the tapping starting again, but this time it felt different. It was louder, more insistent. It felt like it was calling me, and I realized I had to confront it. With that resolve I got up, adrenaline coursing through me. There was only one thing I could do now. I was going to open the door. But when I reached for the knob, everything went dark. Everything around me turned silent, as if the world had held its breath. I blinked into the dark, confusion settling in. I felt the doorknob beneath my fingers, but the sudden emptiness around me sent a jolt of fear through my veins. Had I really opened the door? Or had I just imagined it? I waited, hoping the darkness would pass. Just as I was about to let go of the knob, a low rumble rolled through the apartment, shaking the walls. My heart raced as the tapping began anew. It echoed in the silence, now accompanied by a distant thudding. I strained to make sense of it all. The tapping combined with the strange rhythm felt like it was orchestrating something beyond my understanding. And then, out of the darkness, I felt a draft. The door was slightly ajar. I mustered every ounce of bravery and pushed it open further. The hallway was dim, lit only by a flickering light somewhere in the distance. I took a cautious step into the unknown. My hands trembled as I felt along the wall, grounding myself. As I moved forward, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Every shadow flickered at the corner of my vision, drawing my attention, but I forced myself to focus ahead. The tapping grew louder, urging me on. Then I stumbled upon a piece of paper lying on the ground. It looked torn, like it had been pulled out of a notebook in a hurry. I picked it up, my pulse quickening with each heartbeat. The words were messy, scribbled hastily. "Leave. It knows." I gasped, the hair on my neck standing on end. Someone else had been here. Someone who felt the same dread I did. Had they escaped? Suddenly, a crash echoed down the hall, the sound shattering the frail hold I had on my courage. My instinct screamed at me to retreat, to run back to the safety of my apartment, but another part of me urged me to stay, to seek out the source of all this chaos. I took a deep breath and pressed on. I came to a pair of double doors at the end of the hall. They were old, covered in dust, and slightly ajar. As I approached, the tapping morphed into a whisper once more. "Help." It was unmistakable. It didn't belong just to me. I felt an overwhelming pull to open those doors, to find out what lay beyond them. But as my hand reached out to push them open, the lights flickered again, and I heard something behind me. A soft, shuffling sound. I turned abruptly, fear gripping my chest. Someone was there. Someone else in the darkness. I couldn't ignore the shivers running down my spine. I had to make a choice. Keep going forward or confront whoever was hiding behind me. As I hesitated, breath hitching in my throat, I realized I was no longer alone. That's when I saw it. It was a figure, just a silhouette at first. But as I squinted into the darkness, the outline became clearer. A person stood just a few feet away, shrouded in shadows. My heart raced, pounding against my ribs like it was trying to escape. Who's there?" I stammered, my voice barely above a whisper. The figure didn't respond. Instead, it leaned forward slightly, as if trying to peer into the dim light. I took a cautious step back, ready to bolt if necessary. But curiosity anchored my feet to the ground. The soft shuffling noise intensified, and the shape broke into movement. I could barely make out a face, hollow and pale. "Help," it gasped, voice shaky and frail, echoing the words I'd heard before. "Is that you?" I asked, a surge of hope mixing with my fear. "Are you trapped?" But before the figure could answer, a loud bang erupted from the double doors behind me, causing me to jump. The entity in front of me recoiled into the shadows, its presence fading like smoke in the air. In that instant, I felt the chill of loneliness creep back in. I snapped around to the doors. I could feel frost forming on my skin. The dark space behind them seemed to pulse with energy. What had made that noise? I couldn't feel my instinct pulling me toward it again. The whisper didn't repeat. Instead, the air thickened with a charged tension. I looked back to where the figure had been, but now it was gone. All I could see was the dim glow of my hallway light. "Please," I shouted into the darkness, but only silence answered me. With my heart in my throat, I approached the doors. The banging persisted from the other side, the sound heavy and desperate. I glanced around, half expecting the figure to return, but I was alone. I took a deep breath and leaned against the door, ready to push it open. But just as my fingers touched the cold metal, a hand gripped my shoulder from behind. I froze, the warmth of the contact contrasting against the icy fear shooting through me. My breath caught in my chest as I turned to find another person standing there. "Don't!" the newcomer shouted, their eyes wide with terror. "You can't go in there." Confusion raced through me. "Who are you?" "I can't explain now," they said urgently, glancing over their shoulder. "It's not safe. We need to go. Now." Panic clawed at my throat. I could feel the weight of the moment, everything threatening to unravel around us. "But we need to see what's happening." "No, you don't understand. It sees you. It's coming." Their words ignited my fears and questions. I felt the darkness looming closer. If the figure, if anyone, was warning me, then maybe I should listen. But the pull of the doors was magnetic, drawing me in. Just as I was about to respond, the very air around us changed. The faint whispers surged into a chaotic cacophony, and the lights above us flickered wildly. I glanced back at the doors, a sudden dread brewing inside me. Then everything went dark. I gasped as the darkness swallowed me whole. I could feel the world around me shift, like a heavy blanket wrapping tight. My ears rang, the previous cacophony replaced with a suffocating silence. I reached out, trying to find something, anything, to hold on to. My fingers grazed against a cold wall. I stepped back, disoriented, and bumped into the stranger. They were still there, a warm presence amidst the overwhelming blackness. "Are you okay?" they whispered, but I could barely hear them. "No," I managed to say. "What just happened?" There was no response. I turned, straining to see something, anything, through the pitch black. That's when I felt it, a shift in the air, a disturbance that sent shivers down my spine. "I can't stay here," I said, panic starting to set in. "We need to leave." "Not yet," they replied, their voice low. "We have to wait. If we move, it'll know." My heart raced again. "Know what? What are you talking about?" I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but my voice felt locked in my throat. I strained to hear sounds, to pick up any clue about the situation. It was hard to breathe, the air thickening around me. "Listen," the stranger said, suddenly urgent. That's when I finally heard it. A gentle tap, a slow rhythm against the floor. It was coming closer. I pressed my back against the wall, terrified of what might emerge from the shadows. "I can't take this," I whispered. "I need to see." The tap intensified, echoing in the silence. I caught a glimpse of movement to my right, something shifting, a fleeting shadow in the dark. My heart raced even faster. "Stop! Don't look!" the stranger hissed, but it was too late. I turned my head, straining to catch sight of the source. My eyes finally adjusted, revealing a figure emerging from the darkness. It was tall and gaunt, its body stretching unnaturally toward us. The cold feel of dread washed over me. "Why is it here?" I gasped. "What does it want?" "It's looking for you," the stranger replied, fear evident in their tone. "It's hungry." "Hungry for what?" I shouted, frustration pushing against my fear. But no answer came. Instead, the tapping grew louder, thumping now, almost synchronizing with my heart. I felt the walls close in around us. There had to be a way out, some escape from this nightmare. I thought about the double doors behind me, but how could I go back without knowing what was waiting? "Where can we go?" I said, barely whispering. "There's no safe place," the stranger said, shaking their head. "Not anymore." Just then, the lights flickered back on, cutting through the darkness into harsh brightness. I squinted, disoriented. The figure was gone, but I felt a new presence lingering in the shadows. "Whatever you do, don't turn your back on it," the stranger warned. That's when I saw something on the edge of the light. A glimmer, almost like eyes watching us. My blood ran cold, and the terror I felt only sharpened. We weren't alone. "Let's get out of here," I said, a surge of adrenaline pushing me forward. But before I could even take a step, the stranger grabbed my arm tightly. "No, it's coming!" The air thickened again, and a feeling of dread settled over me like a shroud. We were trapped in a nightmare, and escape seemed further away than ever. I stood frozen, my breath hitching in my throat. The stranger's grip on my arm was unyielding, their eyes wide with fear. I looked toward the darkness, waiting for something, anything to happen. The air felt electric, as if charged by some unseen force, and I was caught in its pull. Suddenly the glimmer of eyes vanished, replaced by a deeper darkness that felt alive. I wanted to shout. I wanted to run. But time seemed to freeze, every second stretching into eternity. "What do we do?" I finally asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The stranger hesitated, their brow furrowing. "We have to find somewhere to hide. But it's not safe here. If it senses us, we won't stand a chance." I nodded, desperate for a plan. I scanned the room, looking for anything that could help. There were shadows cast on the walls, and a single doorway loomed in the distance, partially obscured by flickering light. "Back there?" I pointed toward the door. The stranger didn't answer immediately. Instead, they pulled me closer. "We have to be quiet. No noise. Just trust me." I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart, and we began to inch forward, carefully avoiding the creaking floorboards that threatened to betray us. With each step, I felt an unnerving sensation creeping down my spine. It was a weight, a pressure that seemed to whisper warnings I couldn't comprehend. As we neared the door, a sudden sound sliced through the silence, a harsh thud, like something colliding with the ground. Panic shot through me, and I turned to the stranger, fear pooling in my stomach. "What was that?" The stranger's face paled further. "I don't know, but we need to keep moving." Just when we reached the door, the lights flickered again, casting eerie shadows. I glanced back, and my breath caught. Something was there, emerging from the darkness. Its form was indistinct, but I could feel the malice radiating off it, a predatory hunger that sent chills through my bones. "Run!" I shouted. We burst through the door, colliding into a dim corridor, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was right behind us. The walls felt like they were closing in, the darkness swallowing the light ahead, and I knew we had to keep moving. "Where do we go now?" I gasped, looking for any sign of safety. "There's a stairwell at the end," they replied, urgency lacing their words. "Just keep running." As we dashed forward, I could hear it again. The same rhythmic tapping, but closer this time, echoing in the narrow space between us. My head spun, fear clawing at me as I pushed myself faster. Just as we reached the stairwell door, I turned to check if it was still pursuing us. In that moment, I saw it clearly, a dark silhouette, unyielding and twisted, bursting through the corridor's threshold. "Go!" I screamed, and we stumbled through the door just in time. Slamming it shut behind us, I leaned against the cold metal, panting heavily. The silence returned, but this time it felt more oppressive, as if something was waiting for us on the other side. "What is it?" I asked, my voice trembling. "What does it want with me?" The stranger opened their mouth, but their response was cut short by a strange noise. It was a whisper, filtered through the door, taunting and chilling. Then everything went silent. I could feel a weight in the air, an anticipation that told me this was far from over. I turned to the stranger, fear twisting in my gut. We need to find a way out of here, now. But as I looked into their wide eyes, I knew we were nowhere close to safety. The stairwell felt cold and damp, a stark contrast to the panic coursing through my veins. The low light barely illuminated the concrete steps, casting strange shadows that seemed to dance in the corners of my vision. I could still hear that whispering, haunting and familiar, tugging at the edges of my mind. "Which way?" I asked, looking up and down the staircase that spiraled into darkness. "Up," the stranger said, their voice tight with urgency. "We'll lose it in the upper floors. Just keep moving." I nodded and started to climb, one foot after the other, though each step felt heavier than the last. Ascending felt like an escape, but I couldn't shake the unease that something was still very much with us. A chill ran down my spine as I thought about the dark figure. What was it? And why was it targeting me? As we reached the third floor, I heard it, a soft scraping sound, delicate yet deliberate. Frozen in place, I turned to the stranger, who looked just as alert. They raised a finger to their lips, signaling for silence. I could barely breathe as the noise grew louder, building like a heartbeat. Then, a door creaked open a few paces down the hallway. My stomach dropped. I caught a glimpse of something moving inside, a flash of darkness that pulled me in, both terrified and curious. "Stay here," I whispered, my voice barely audible. I was drawn to the door, compelled by an inexplicable need to understand what was happening. I stepped cautiously toward it, my heart thumping violently. The stranger tugged at my sleeve. "Don't. We don't know what's in there." "I have to see. Just wait for me," I pleaded, my feet moving despite their warnings. As I pushed the door wider, it groaned in protest. The room was dim, scattered with piles of dust and a few forgotten items, a broken chair, a torn photograph. My eyes fell on the image, then widened. It was a picture of someone I recognized, a friend from my childhood. They were grinning, unaware of the shadows gathering around them. "What is this?" I whispered, taking a shaky step inside. The whispering echoed in my mind again, louder this time. I felt a chill seep into my bones, that same creeping dread from before. The room began to feel smaller, the air thickening. I needed to get out, but as I turned, the door slammed shut behind me. Panic gripped me. I pounded on the door. "Let me out!" The sounds of my fists hitting wood were drowned out by a new noise outside. Heavy footsteps tapping rhythmically, stalking, relentless. I spun back to the room, terror flooding my senses. That's when I saw it. A shadow, darker than the corners of the room, slinking into view. It loomed larger than I expected, twisting and contorting as it advanced toward me. "Help!" I screamed, my voice breaking. "Please!" Then everything went dark. In the pitch black, I could hear my own ragged breathing and feel the heat of something watching me. The nightmare wasn't merely chasing me, it was toying with me. What did it want? Why was it here? Those questions spun in my mind as I groped around, desperately searching for an exit. The door felt like a world away, unreachable. I had never felt so powerless. Then suddenly, a blinding light flickered on, illuminating the room. My heart raced as I squinted against the brightness, and that's when the familiar figure appeared in the corner, the same face from the photograph, now aged and distorted with terror. "Run," it whispered, a warning echoing in the confines of my mind. Outside, the tap-tap-tapping continued, steady and unnerving. I was not alone any longer. A new realization washed over me. I had to escape before it caught up to me again. The light flickered and buzzed, casting sharp shadows that danced on the walls. I stood frozen as the familiar face approached me, eyes wide with fear. Why was it here? What did it want? "Run," the figure said again, its voice tinged with desperation. I caught a glimpse of its mouth moving, but the words felt muffled, as if they were lost in the noise of pounding footsteps. I took a step back, the instinct to flee battling with the urge to understand. "Why? What's coming?" I managed to choke out, my heart racing. But the figure only pressed a finger to its lips, pleading for silence. Then, a loud bang echoed from the door behind me, rattling the frame. The tapping outside transformed into a heavy thud, jarring the air. My instincts kicked in. "I can't stay here," I hissed, and against all common sense, I rushed forward, shoving against the door. It didn't budge. Panic surged through me. I pressed my ear against the wood, listening intently. The footsteps outside intensified, now a steady march. "Get out!" the figure urged, its face twisting in anguish. I glanced back, my breath catching. The shadow had grown larger, forming a doorway of darkness that seemed to breathe, expanding with every passing moment. I backed away, frantically searching for another escape route. That's when I noticed a window near the far wall. Could I make it? Would it even open? I had to try. "Please help me!" I yelled, scrambling toward the window. I could feel the dark presence behind me, whispering something I couldn't quite grasp. I reached for the latch, my fingers trembling as I struggled to pull it open. The window creaked ominously, then resisted. The tapping outside had stopped, replaced by a deeper, more menacing silence. My heart pounded in my ears. I yanked harder, and then with a sharp crack, the window flew open, revealing a yawning drop into the alley below. "Jump!" the figure shouted, panic creeping into its voice. Fear twisted my stomach. I could see the pavement below, cracked and unwelcoming, but I had no other choice. "Please, don't leave! Don't—" The figure's voice faded into a whisper just as I leapt. The air rushed past me, and for a brief moment I felt weightless, free. Then I hit the ground hard. Pain exploded in my ankle. I gasped, scrambling to my feet despite the agony shooting through my leg. I didn't stop to assess the damage. The whispers were back, growing louder and angrier, and there was no telling how long my momentary escape would hold. I darted into the shadows of the alley, adrenaline surging. I had to get away from the building, away from whatever hunted me. Behind me, the sounds shifted, something flinging itself through the open window, crashing down in pursuit. That's when I spotted it, the faint glow of streetlights in the distance, illuminating the mouth of the alley. I sprinted toward it, the urgency of escape pushing me forward despite the pain pulsating in my leg. "Don't look back," I told myself. But a part of me couldn't resist. I turned, just in time to see the shadow spilling from the building like ink, spreading across the pavement. It paused, and I felt its gaze upon me, a cold weight pressing against my chest. I took a deep breath and forced myself to run faster. Then I heard another voice, this one distinct and familiar, echoing through the night. "You have to remember." My blood ran cold. Who was it? What did I have to remember? And just like that, I realized I would have to face my past if I was going to survive this night. I sprinted into the light, the glow from the street lamps offering a false sense of safety. Each step sent jolts of pain through my ankle, but I couldn't think about that now. I needed distance. The alley abandoned me, giving way to the chaos of the street. People were milling about, oblivious to the nightmare that chased me. A group of late-night revelers laughed, their carefree demeanor a stark contrast to the dread piling in my chest. I stumbled past them, desperately scanning my surroundings. I needed somewhere to hide, somewhere safe. That's when I saw it. A small cafe tucked in the corner, lined with bright umbrellas and empty tables. I dashed toward it, breathing hard. The front door swung wide, and I slipped inside, relief washing over me. The interior was dimly lit, filled with the scent of burnt coffee and old pastries. It felt like a sanctuary, but dread hovered in the corners. I glanced around, eyes darting to the exit. The barista behind the counter looked up, startled by my sudden entrance. "Are you all right?" he asked, concern lining his voice. I shook my head. "I need to hide." He hesitated, glancing at the door. "There's no one outside." But I wasn't convinced. Something told me the darkness was still lurking just beyond the threshold. The barista seemed uncertain, still peering toward the entryway, so I made a decision. "Please just let me stay." I hurried past him and took refuge in a booth at the back. I pressed my back against the wall and took a deep breath, trying to quiet the storm of panic in my chest. No matter how much I wanted to ignore it, the voice from earlier echoed in my mind. "You have to remember." What did that mean? Why was it haunting me? I felt a surge of frustration. Maybe facing whatever came next meant confronting my own memories, but I didn't know where to start. The barista returned, his brow furrowed. "You're shaking. Do you want some water?" "Just stay with me a moment." I forced the words out, but my voice trembled. He nodded slowly and leaned against the counter, eyes still wary. "Can you tell me what happened?" he asked, lowering his voice. I hesitated, mind racing. I wanted to share my experience, but I couldn't find the words. Instead, I caught movement outside. Shadows shifting, panic rising all over again. "That's it," I whispered, eyes locked on the door. "Something is coming." As if in response, the door to the cafe creaked open. I held my breath, heart pounding. Someone stepped inside, silhouetted by the light. I squinted, straining to see through the dimness. Just then, the figure turned and my blood ran cold. I recognized that face. It was the one who'd urged me to run. But how? Why were they here now? "Remember, it's not over," they said, their voice cutting through the cafe's silence. I felt the space around me shift, a new threat tightening around my throat. "What do you mean?" I shouted, desperation creeping back. The figure took a step closer into the light, and that's when everything went dark. I jolted awake, gasping for air, my chest heaving. The world around me was bright and sterile. Blinking against the harsh overhead lights, I realized I was lying on a gurney in a small white room. My heart raced as I looked around, confusion knitting my brow. Where was I? Was it over? The events from the night prior flooded back to me, the darkness, the whispers, the figure. I felt a cold sweat break out on my neck. How had I escaped? I sat up too fast and winced as pain radiated through my ankle, still swollen and throbbing. A doorway beyond me creaked open, and a nurse stepped inside, her eyes widening at the sight of me. "Thank goodness, you're awake!" She rushed forward with a clipboard in hand. "You must be feeling disoriented. Take it slow." Wherever I was, it felt far removed from the chaos I'd endured, almost too normal, too safe. "What happened?" I rasped, my voice hoarse. I was in a cafe." My mind wrestled with the memories, seeking threads of clarity. The shadows. It was chasing me. She nodded knowingly but didn't clarify. "You were found unconscious in an alleyway. A passerby called for help. You were lucky." Lucky? I didn't feel lucky. I felt burdened with unhealed questions. But the figures? They were after me. I heard them whispering. They were trying to drag me back. My heart raced, memories bubbling to the surface. She placed a calming hand on my shoulder. "It's common to experience hallucinations after a traumatic event. You're safe here now." Hallucinations. My mind wrestled with her words. Had it all been in my head? What about the neighbors, their warnings? Had the strange occurrences simply been manifestations of stress? Did anyone else know about the dark presence? What was it trying to take from me? I searched her gaze for answers, but she seemed distant, almost unaware of my turmoil. "The others," I murmured, barely able to voice my fears. "Did anyone else experience it?" The nurse's brows furrowed. "You're the only one we found. The rest of the building had been quiet for weeks. We have no reports of disturbances." My stomach sank. Had I truly been alone in my fears? I grasped at the reality I just escaped, but the memory of the figure lingered, refusing to fade. "But the figure warned me. I had to remember. What does it mean?" She paused, choosing her words carefully. "It can be a coping mechanism of the mind, a way of communicating trauma. Perhaps it's time to think about what you're willing to remember." There it was again, that ungraspable ambiguity. Trauma. Was it all just a figment of my overburdened mind? Or was there something tangible hidden within all of it? "I need to go," I said suddenly, determination blazing. "I need to know what happened." "Please, you need to rest." But I was already swinging my legs over the side of the gurney. Just as I found my balance, the door swung open, and a doctor strolled in, startling the nurse. "What's going on?" he asked. "I want to leave," I asserted, clenching my fists. "I can't just sit here." The doctor exchanged a glance with the nurse. "It's not safe for you to leave just yet. You need more observation." I stood up, grounding myself on shakier legs than I'd expected. "I can't stay. I have to confront this." Before they could protest further, I pushed past them toward the door. I needed answers. There had to be more to my experience than the nurse's rationalizations. As I stepped out into the hallway, everything felt muted, almost surreal. Was my escape more than skin deep? I wandered the corridors aimlessly, echoes of my own footsteps mixing with the whispers in my mind. The air felt thick, suffocating with tension. The neon lights flickered above, the sterile walls closing in around me. Did everyone here know? Was I truly the only one? I turned a corner and saw a poster on a nearby wall. "Coping with trauma," it read, alongside a list of mental health services and support. Had those suggestions been there always, or was the irony of their placement directing me back toward unanswered questions? "Remember," echoed in my mind again, but before I could dwell on it, I caught sight of a door at the end of the hall, unmarked but slightly ajar. Shadows flickered beyond it, tinged with an otherworldly darkness. Was it really over? I took a deep breath, courage surging through me. There would be no more running. I reached for the door, knowing that whatever lay beyond was either the truth or something I wasn't prepared for. As I pushed it open, a voice drifted from the shadows, beckoning me forward into the unknown, pulling me back to where this all began. The line between reality and terror blurring once again. Maybe I was about to confront my past, or perhaps I was just stepping into another nightmare.